up? Y'all ready, man? I'm excited about this new show. NERDGASM is going to be the show where I talk about anime, comics, music, and everything in between. Even things that, grind my gears a little bit, because nerd culture has become pop culture, whether I like it or not. So let's just get into it, okay? Y'all got Batman fucked up. Alright, let me be a little bit more clear about that. Y'all really got Batman fucked up. You know what? You're right. Let me reel it in a bit. Let me get into some backstory. Now, a couple years ago, SNL released this sketch with Chance the Rapper, the guy who loves his wife. They painted Batman as this rich guy who just dresses up as a bat and goes and beats up on poor people in the hood. And when I saw this, people are laughing because it's a live show and everything, but I wasn't laughing. I didn't think it was funny. And I'll tell you why. It's because, first of all, Batman doesn't go out in the night dressed up as a bat with all these gadgets just to beat up on poor people. He's fighting organized crime. He's fighting corrupt politicians, corrupt police force, mobsters. He's fighting people who are arms dealers trying to bring in warlike ammunitions into Gotham City's poor and impoverished neighborhoods. Like, he's trying to save his city. And I get it, Green Arrow and the Arrowverse took that from Batman. But Green Arrow wasn't out here talking about, I want to save the city in the comics. He was out here trying to be Robin Hood. So don't disrespect Batman. He was out here trying to save his city. And you would think, for those of us who are, engrossed in comics, or those of us are just engrossed in pop culture when it comes to Batman, there's so many Batman movies that have shown his origin story. You see that a man by Joe Chill guns down his parents right in front of him. Someone, Joe Chill himself, who was hired by the Falcone family to kill his parents, the Falcone family, the mafia. That's who he's fighting against. He's not beating up on drug dealers. He's not beating up on black people. He's beating up on the criminals and the people who took away his parents, so that way no kid has to go through what he went through. No family has to, walk the streets of Gotham and have to worry and have to look over their shoulder. That's what Bruce Wayne is fighting for. That's what Batman is fighting for. And somewhere along the line that's gotten lost. And it's all become about this guy who is rich and he just has gadgets for every possible situation, and he has no superpowers, and he's just lame. And also there's this misconception that somehow Bruce Wayne is out here fucking Dick Grayson. Yeah, I said it. People out here thinking Batman is a pedophile. I'm gonna have to check them right quick too. I'm gonna have to say something about that. First of all, you have to understand this. Batman, for a man like Bruce Wayne, who had no parents, who his whole life he dedicated to crime fighting and to instilling fear into criminals and having to deal with psychopaths like the Joker and Two-Face and Bane and all these other people, this guy turns around and adopts a kid who, for all purposes, comes from a very weird background. Dick Grayson was from the circus. And if anybody anywhere knows anything about the circus, the circus is not always on the up and up. But Dick Grayson was a part of a acrobat act with his family, and he saw his family fall to their death, his mom and dad dead. And Bruce Wayne is in the crowd watching this. And so he took it upon himself to be like, you know what? That happened to me. I see myself in Dick Grayson. I'm going to adopt him as my ward, as my son. Come on now. There's a man in the comics who comes from old money, and he decides to, instead of enjoying his riches and stunting on people like we do when we get money here in America and things like that, he's out here fighting crime in a bat suit, no superpowers, fighting superpowered people in the mob, people who have the politicians and the cops in their pocket. And then he also decides, you know what, I'm gonna be a dad and I'm gonna raise this kid. Like, how is that not honorable? How does that get misconstrued as an inappropriate relationship in which somehow Batman and Dick Grayson are butt buddies? Like, how does that happen? Then on top of that, it doesn't help when you have animated shows coming out through Warner Brothers in DC. There's a recent movie, I forget the name of it, but there's a movie in which Batman and Batgirl have a very weird and inappropriate relationship, where the whole time there's this sexual tension that's honestly just on one side for Barbara Gordon. Mind you, Barbara Gordon is way younger than Bruce Wayne. Like, that's Commissioner Gordon's daughter, yo. That's damn near like his niece and shit, and she want the D. Like, when we get to doing stuff like that to Batman, it totally takes away from who he is and what his mission is. Batman is a tortured soul, but he's also one of the greatest detectives in the world. People forget that. People forget that this man solves crimes. He don't just be out here throwing batarangs and hanging people from rooftops and brutally beating up criminals and saying, now talk. Like, he's actually trying to make his city better, man. He's actually out here trying to stop the inevitable, which is what the Christopher Nolan series was about, because Gotham City at its core is corrupt, which, if that's a satire on America, is true. And so you got this one man who's willing to fight against the system, put all his efforts and resources that he doesn't even have allocated for this certain thing. He taking all his resources, all the stuff from Wayne Tech, to fight crime. He could be doing anything else, okay? And he's fighting crime. So how do we go from this scarred individual who dedicated 7 years of their lives to traveling around the world to become the ultimate crime fighter, who went into Gotham City and not only fought against corrupt politicians, corrupt police, and the mafia, but also brought in young men who were also lost in their way, and he saw themselves and brought them in and trained them up. Now, mind you, I understand the child endangerment. I understand the child endangerment, issues that come with, bringing a young man or a young child into crime fighting and him fighting psychopaths and things like that. But we have to remember, this is all fictional. These are not real people. You know what I'm saying? So when it comes to people having these opinions about Batman being a white savior and all these other things, you have to understand things in context. One, Batman is a fictional character. Two, Bob Kane created Batman in the 1930s. There was little to no black representation anywhere, unless you were talking about Birth of a Nation and people doing blackface. So is Batman being white, does that bother me as a black man? Does that make me feel like I'm not represented? No. Come on, man. Come on. We got it. We got somebody in the Green Lantern Corps. Martian Manhunter is black in my opinion. And then you have all these other litany of black superheroes that I'm going to get into another video. If you want to see a video about black superheroes, then comment down below and let me know if you want to see that, because honestly, I would love to talk about Blue Marvel because he's a great character. But back to Batman. You know what I'm saying? Like, we have to understand that these are fictional characters. These are not characters that are actually as bad as we make them. If there was an actual real life man whose mind is so broken that the only way he sees himself fixing the world around him, which is his city, is to dress up as a bat, which is something he fears, in order to instill fear into the criminals and corrupt people in his world, so that the people and the children and those who are less fortunate to him, because Bruce Wayne didn't come up with his own riches. He was born into this. He come from old money. So if you are someone who comes from 6-7 generations of a wealthy family, when you're born into it, you don't even realize that you're rich. You know what I'm saying? When all those things happened to him, he was 8 years old. Put that into context. He was 8 years old. And then from 13 to 20, he was going all around the world, as I said before. So he wasn't out here, gallivanting and spending his money. Now, when he did come back to Gotham City, he had to put on the guise of Bruce Wayne, millionaire playboy. He had to do that so people wouldn't suspect that he was Batman. Come on now, use your brains. I almost poked myself in the eye. Use your brain. To sum all this up, if you're a person who believes that Batman is a self-serving, rich pedophile who dresses up in tights and beats up on black drug dealers, it says more about you than the character. But as a great man once said, don't take my word for it. I'm going to put the links to DCComics.com in the comment section below. Go ahead and educate yourselves on who Batman is. And if you're interested in other things beyond Batman, DCComics.com is a great resource because they have profiles so detailed. You can find out the height, the hair color, you know what I'm saying, their backstory, their, you know, publication history, all those things at DCComics.com. And just like that, we've come to the end of the first episode of NERDGASM. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. This show is going to be raw and uncut. I'm going to say some things that may offend you. So if you're offended and you didn't like what I was saying in this episode, you don't have to tune in. It's okay. But if you appreciated my passion, my gander, you know, for Batman and just him being represented in the way that he was originally meant to be represented, then continue to tune in, man, because I'm going to be talking about more things, not just Batman, but things about anime, things about Marvel, things about DC, things about music. All these things are going to be covered here on NERDGASM. So tune in, like and share, comment, have a conversation, have a whole field day in the comment section. I do not care, but I do care because I love you guys and I want to give you guys the best type of content that I possibly can. So without further ado, I love you guys. Be kind to one another, care about one another, and above all else, peace.